7, John 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 7. I'm John 7, John 7, John 7. I'm John 7, John 7, John 7.
What is up, my Archfiends of Chaos? This is your King of the Night, Vincent Valentine EX Turk, and I'm playing the Resident Evil movie soundtrack. And just like my Final Fantasy list, even though I have not done Resident Evil videos, this would be kind of one of my other arbitrary Resident Evil videos that isn't a stream. So, and like the Final Fantasy video I did before with my top 5, this could only be one character per entry. Now with Resident Evil, the same characters do go into some of the same games. So in this case, we're gonna actually have it where it can only be the variant from that one game. So I can't choose two the same variants. To those who don't know what the variant means, is pretty much variant to that game or series or whatever not. So, like I said, I'm gonna be looking at my thumbnail I made. But the very first favorite Resident Evil character on my number 1 list is actually gonna be Wesker from Resident Evil 5. Now I like his 5. Even though I hated I hated Resident Evil 5. I will admit there's one thing I liked about Resident Evil 5 is that they made Wesker a more defining character than he was in the original. Yeah, I don't even think you really got to fight him in the original. You got to fight Tyrant, and then he just leaves. But in this, you get to fight Wesker, and Wesker actually does things to affect the plot in a huge way. I think the reboot to Wesker in Resident Evil 5 was actually good. In fact, Resident Evil 5, to be honest, the only thing good it had going for it, in my opinion, was Wesker. So Wesker is, because of his more defining characteristics and the fact he actually was more pivotal to the plot than, his previous versions of himself. So, number 2 list will be Nemesis. The reason why Nemesis is my favorite, is one of my other favorite Resident Evil characters. Well, he technically counts as a character, even though he's a mutation. It's not only because he's smart and super strong and can find you anywhere, and the most terror from Resident Evil 3 was the fact that Nemesis could go anywhere you go, even the bathroom. So if you were trying to take a piss, Nemesis would be right there to fuck your shit up. But it's also the fact that Resident Evil 3 was actually the very first Resident Evil game I've actually ever played in my life. Like, the very first. Like, on PlayStation 1. So it has more memories. Resident Evil 3, to me, is like how Final Fantasy 7 is to me. It's because it's the first one I played, so obviously I'm gonna biasly like what I played first, so, and then the fact I also like using him in Marvel vs. Capcom because he's just a pretty badass for a mutation. I actually like Nemesis. And Nemesis was smart and tactical. He's not like his other brothers and sisters zombies. So, number 3 would be a newer one. Resident Evil 7's Lucas Baker. I like Resident Evil 7 Lucas Baker amongst all the villains because, unlike the other Baker family, the Baker family was controlled by Evelyn and had everything. But Lucas pretty much has his own kind of mind. Lucas was like the Joker in a way. Lucas was so insane that the Evelyn thing couldn't affect his mind, but it can turn him into a mutation, as you've seen in battle with Chris Redfield. Not to mention, he was actually the most scariest out of the Baker family, because the fact is, even with the infection, he still had his own agenda, and he also played games like Jigsaw did, so you had to go through, even in the original game, you had to go through places like Jigsaw. I'm glad they kept him as a DLC, because then, he was, I think out of all the villains of Resident Evil 7, he was actually the best one. He was the best Baker. Because of his traps, how smart he was, and he wanted to go back the way things were. He was pretty much an arbitrary evil character. Even though he was insane, and has committed his first murder as a little boy because of someone who made fun of him in school. But he's also the fact that Lucas Baker is, he kind of wants a little bit of the same thing as Zoe does, except in a way where, it's just his regular family while he still does bad stuff. So he was kind of an arbitrary villain and hard to understand. And I kind of like heroes or villains, it don't matter. I like the arbitrary style of a character. So that's why Lucas Baker is number 3 favorite Resident Evil character. So let's get into number 2. Chris Redfield from Resident Evil 1. Now, granted, I have not played Resident Evil 1 when I was a kid like I did 3. But I do remember on the PlayStation covers of Chris Redfield being not as buff. In fact, he just had a regular haircut and he was average build. I really hate the 5 version. I really do. Which, people who like it, please don't put dislikes on it. This is my opinion. But nonetheless, Chris Redfield being the original hero. And not only that, when the Resident Evil 1 remake came out for the PS4 on PlayStation Plus, I mostly played as Chris. Sometimes I switched to Jill to see how she played, but I like Chris's gameplay. And I think the only thing that makes me like Chris, in Resident Evil 1 is it's mostly his gameplay mechanics, and that's what makes me like him. And which is funny because the next one is actually a sister, but remember, when I talked about variant, Claire Redfield was not in Resident Evil 1, so it does not count. And if she was, she just didn't make an appearance as much as the last one, which would be my number 5, Claire Redfield from Resident Evil 2. Now, I do like all her variants, really, to be quite honest. I do like her Revelations 2 variant. I do like all her other variants. But I'm going to stick to Resident Evil 2 because it's the original game that she came from. And I'm so hyped to play her again in Resident Evil 2. Hence why I'm making a top 5 favorite Resident Evil character list in the first place. Because, I'm so hyped for the remake of 2. So, pretty much, 2 remakes of Resident Evil. So, Claire Redfield, her gameplay's like Chris, except she's a little bit faster. So, a bit faster and stuff like that. Not to mention, she knows how to customize ammunition and all that other stuff too. And, she's a pivotal character to Resident Evil 2. And pretty much, she's Claire Redfield. She is the sister of Chris Redfield. That's something. That's something. So pretty much, may the crystal be with you. Like and subscribe, follow, do all that good stuff, not for greedy, arbitrary reasons. But also let me know what your favorite top 5 Resident Evil characters is, and may the crystal be with you.